Okay, so this next move is to help release your diaphragm. And if you've taken the anatomy course or you just know your anatomy, you might remember that the diaphragm is this umbrella-shaped muscle, right, that lines the rib cage. And as it contracts and expands, it controls our breathing, the intake and outtake of breath. And the heart rides and is through connective tissue is kind of like woven on top of the diaphragm. So the heart's also moving with the diaphragm. And then the diaphragm has these sort of tentacles or hooks that hook into the spine, that anchor it into the spine, called the crura. And those crura are interwoven and overlap with the beginnings of the psoas muscle. So the psoas muscle is the big, deep muscle that runs through the trunk and through the pelvis and connects to the legs. And it's the major hip flexor that pulls the legs up like this, right? So as we're doing this, we're going to press into our diaphragm. And maybe let's just do this first before we get into the pose, just to feel in. And you can do this almost as with your clients too, as a test. So just to feel how tight is it up here in the muscles around the diaphragm. So feeling up below the rib cage. And if you find a spot, you can just hold it. You can also lean over to get up under. That's another way to access that. There's many different ways to work with the diaphragm here, but that's the beginnings of it. And then we're going to add this element of lying down. If you have a bad back, I'd recommend not doing this until you did some other exercises, maybe to strengthen or stretch out your back. But if your back's okay, you can experiment with this. So what we're going to do is lie flat and get your fingers up under the rib cage here in the diaphragm. And then you're going to put the arms out straight and rigid and lift them. It's a strengthening exercise. But just protect your low back. Make sure that back is flat against the floor as you do this. And then take a breath and relax after you do one round. This one's pretty strenuous, probably one of the more strenuous ones there is. Let's do another round. So feel into those sore points around the diaphragm. And then stretch out and rigid and slowly lift, pressing into these muscles around the diaphragm. You can grunt and just feeling. Whew. You might feel, again, a difference right to left or ways the energy is organizing around the tissue. And give a break. We'll do one more, maybe find a different point along the diaphragm, and then lifting up. And then as you go down, also press. Pressing into these outer reflexes that access those organs. Okay,